Hi, I'm Mike Henry, and this is my Procreate 4.1 demo for the piece I call Slimer. So, my family is a pretty hardcore Ghostbusters family. We're a big Ghostbusters household. Every version of the Ghostbusters, we love it, and the kids watch the cartoons all the time, and they watch the movies, and they've got them on their iPads and all that crap. We're just constantly watching Ghostbusters. So, the other day I just thought, I've never actually drawn Slimer for real for one of them. I did like a goofy rough sketch once and never really took it past that. So at the beginning of this, that's what it was going to be again. It was going to be, okay, let's just do like a really quick thing. Hey, we need to kill time for 10 minutes. Let's entertain you, you being my 5-year-old son. I'll just draw Slimer real quick. And so this was only going to go as far as the rough. Then I was like, hey, it would be really fun. What if I actually took this all the way and started rendering it? And so this next step you're going to see is me starting to render it like I would if I were doing various layers and picking the colors and all that, which you've seen me do many times here on the channel. In the middle of me doing it though, I thought, hey, this actually isn't that fun, to be honest. I just wasn't really enjoying it for some reason, so I put it down for a while and then I came back to it. And then you'll see me take on a whole new angle of attack. Now, if you follow this channel, you'll know that I also haven't posted anything in a long time. My family and I, we're in the process of relocating to a new city in a new country. I took a new job somewhere, which I haven't really announced yet, but I'll announce it when it happens, when we actually get there. So right now, we actually are in a transition where our home is completely packed and our stuff is on its way and going into storage for a bit, and we're in a temporary house. So that's why you haven't really been seeing things from me. I wrapped up my previous gig, prepared everything for the move, and now I'm sort of like mid-move. That's why it's been a while since you've seen a video. So that's also why it's been a while since I've even really produced any new work. If you follow me on Instagram, a lot of what I've done lately has been dragging out old stuff that maybe it's fun to shed light on again, and I've been reposting it. So this is the first new thing I did in a couple weeks, actually, which is a long time for me. So now let's get back into what's happening in the picture. You saw it go from being a rough to being rendered to that not really working out, and so then I scrapped the rendering and I decided, okay, let's do tight line work on this and then do more of like a shadow layer style as I've done in the past. Now, as everybody always asks, what are the brushes that I'm using for this? I'll ignore the rendered version because there really wasn't anything to talk about there. The line art for this, the rough and the final, of course, fat pencil, link down below in the description. I think I mentioned this in the last video. Let me just address it one more time. I always get lots of comments about, I followed your directions, I made the fat pencil the way you said to, and it's not working. Any idea why? And I'll just say it again so that I hopefully get this information to as many people as possible. There could also be some aspect of it that's tied to the size of the canvas that I use. I don't know, I haven't tested this myself, but I almost always for these videos use something that's either 8 inches by 12 inches or 12 inches by 8 inches, depending on whether or not it's portrait or landscape, and it's always at 300 dpi. So try that and see if the pencil works for you, for those who it hasn't worked for. Another thing that people say to me sometimes is, oh, well, that's the canvas size you use. How do you have so many layers? I don't have as many layers. I see this question pop up a lot. The number of layers proportional to your canvas size is related to which iPad device you have. I don't have Procreate on my phone, but I assume it's also very limited on the phone. I don't actually know. So if you see me saying that I get 60 some layers or whatever it is and you're only getting 20 some, that might just be, or not might, that absolutely is, because even though we have the same canvas settings, older devices have lower layer counts because it's all tied to performance. Procreate tries to maximize performance. It's not like in, say, Photoshop, where you can make this astronomical canvas and you can pack in as many layers as you want, and even though it's chugging, it'll still let you do it. That's just not the way Procreate is. They want to maximize the performance. So that's probably why you're running into those problems. So that was the pencil versus the canvas, and then the canvas versus the layers. Those are just two comments I get a lot, or questions that I get a lot. So that's what's happening there. So Slimer overall, you know, I think that you could... I didn't really draw him wildly different than how he looks in the cartoon. I could have done like a reinvention of Slimer, but that really wasn't the point here. We've seen Slimer in the original movie, then we've seen him interpreted multiple ways. Technically, the cartoon is a reinterpretation because he doesn't really look like he does in the movie either. He's far more grotesque in the movie. And then there was like Ghostbusters Extreme or Extreme Ghostbusters, and that was another version of him. And he's just been interpreted lots of different ways. I think that if I were starting from scratch and doing like a complete redesign of him, I would definitely change some things. But when I did this, I wanted to bring enough of me into it so that I just liked drawing it and had fun drawing it, but I wanted him to look a lot like he does in the cartoon so that my kid would like it. Now, if you're, you know, we're zoomed in on the hand right now, so if you're a big fan of the real Ghostbusters, you probably see something that I did change with Slimer, and that's the number of fingers that he has. He has 3 fingers and a thumb in the cartoon, and I gave him the full 4 and a thumb. The only reason I did that is because I hate drawing 3 fingers and a thumb. It's just a pet peeve of mine. I like drawing hands a lot, and I don't like the idea of taking out a finger. Now, if I were going to draw a character like Nightcrawler from X-Men, it's not like I would give him extra fingers, or if it was the Ninja Turtles, I would give him extra fingers. I always thought it was just really strange that Slimer had 3 fingers. Theoretically, he's a dead person, so I don't know why he would lose a finger when he became a ghost. I'm assuming it was one of those sort of animation shorthands or something, but maybe in the live-action movie he's got 3 fingers? I don't know. Anyways, I didn't get super scientific about this. As I said, this was a piece that it just sort of kept snowballing into me doing more and more and more and more. So I really didn't spend a ton of time researching it aside from grabbing like one still from the cartoon and just going. So I hate drawing 3 fingers. I like drawing 4 fingers. That's why we're at 4 fingers and a thumb. So what's the process for me now from this point on? So now we're in the flatting stage, of course. I flatted the front arm, the back arm, and the body as 3 different layers so that I could potentially do some stuff with transparency if I wanted to. I only slightly do something with transparency at the end of it, because if you do too much transparency, it just kind of gets distracting, and I wanted his form to be more of the thing. If you want to see something where I do more transparency stuff, like really old Halloween piece I did of the zombie called... I don't remember what it's called. You'll find it. There's ghosts there that are super transparent, and that's sort of an easier way to see it. Or better case, I should say. So then after I went and did the flats, now we're doing the shadow pass. I'm using a blue shadow, as you can see, because where it goes beyond the figure, it's blue. That's the true color, and so it's set to multiply, and that's why you're seeing it get darkened, why it's darkening things across the rest of the figure. It's been a while since I've done a rundown of multiply. Basically, multiply is a situation, there's tons of scientific descriptions you can find online to understand it fully, but the way I just always sort of think about it is the closer your color gets to black, the more opaque it becomes, and then it also retains color, and the color affects the colors underneath it. So, for instance, if you have a super, super light pink, it'll only barely darken things and it'll add some pink to it. And if it's black, for instance, it won't really do much play with the colors underneath. It'll just become black. Screen is the opposite of multiply. So where we're at now, a lot of stuff just happened there. Let's watch that again. Okay, so here we are with the shadows. I'm doing the select paint, select clear method, which is linked down below if you want to see how I did that. going up through the layer stacks and doing a selection and a clear and a paint and a selection, clear, paint. And that's how all of this part is being done. The shadow layer exists all on top of all of the flats. I duplicated the eyelash lines and just made them black so that he had dark rings around his eyes, dark lines around his eyes. And then I duplicated his main body and erased away in some sections and lowered the opacity of the under duplicate. That way I could start playing with some transparencies there. I have a white now that's just set to overlay, and that's what I'm using as that rim light to start getting his glow going on. I also duplicated his entire body and blurred it underneath to start getting that extra glowy thing happening there. I also duplicated his entire body and made it really blurry and put it on top of everything and drastically lowered its opacity to just start making him look a little bit fuzzier. Added some reflections on the eyes, some little shiny bits of wetness on his gums and his tongue. Now I'm just adding some extra shines on his teeth, and then some spit in his mouth. This is just done by painting it solid white and then erasing away and making sure that you're just erasing it away so that it looks like it's shadowed by the interior of his mouth, but then you're adding a little bit of white on the edge there so that it looks like it's got form to it. What you just saw there was a bunch of duplicating and playing with the background. That gradient background that you just saw is what I originally saved it out as, and I was like, yeah, let's just do that and not do a background. And then I was like, nah, let's do a background and try to somewhat make it look like the backgrounds from the real Ghostbusters. This all goes by kind of fast, so I'll try to talk through it fast and slow it down even more. I'm only using flats and then overlays for the highlights, and multiplies, and then adjusting the opacity of everything for the darks. That's how this whole thing is done here at the end, except for the window glass. I actually color picked that stuff, and I also used the perspective grid in Procreate in order to do this, to get all the perspective right for this. I just sort of wanted to pick a nondescript corner of the firehouse, so there's like a little bit of a desk and the wall and a big window, and that's it. Now you can see me doing a bunch of selections and stuff. It's really just, I'm trying to keep that background simple, have enough form to it that it looks like it exists, but it's not going to distract from Slimer. Now here's me actually color picking a bit and painting in some of the window. Using a stylized shine with like a chalk brush, some random chalk brush. And then here just adding a little bit of damage to that desk at the very end after turning on Slimer. And there's been a bit of a color adjustment to the background using color balance. And then with a couple little tweaks there at the end, that's a wrap. There is also a slight noise filter on there, and that's basically it though when all is said and done. So here's the lines again, just so you can see them by their lonesome. And then when Slimer got painted with no background, here's the background when it was done, and then Slimer turned on top of it. So thanks a lot for watching. Now I'm back. I'm hoping to post a lot more videos. We'll see how it goes. And if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and all that other jazz. And if you're looking for me on the internet, these are the places where you can find me.